Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's webinar with Anicca. Today, I'm very pleased to bring Ed back. He's going to be talking and giving us a beginner's guide to setting up conversion tracking using Google Tag Manager. As normal, we're going to run a poll. We do this at the beginning, so it gives a little bit more time for people to join us. We are expecting a full house today. So far, we've got 40 odd people, but we've got over 160 booked. So I just need a little bit more time for a few more people to turn up. So let's run the poll. This poll, I'm going to read the poll out because it doesn't get, it doesn't actually appear in the video recording. So it doesn't mean anything to anybody. So the question is, how familiar are you with Google Tag Manager and conversion tracking? And you can answer more than one, but the answers are, I know nothing. This is all new to me. I currently get my developer to add all my tracking code to the site. We do have Google Tag Manager, but I don't know how to use it. I want to be more sufficient and be able to do this myself. I know the basics, but I want to see what else I can do. Always looking to learn more. So that's the sort of the most advanced option. Now, at the moment, as we start to get in some answers, approximately a third of you know nothing, Jon Snow. We have about 20% of you that know the basics, which is great. Obviously, we hope that there'll be some new stuff in this as well. And then it's a pretty equal mix between the other ones, with people saying that they get the developer to add the code and sort of want to know a little bit more, be a bit more self-sufficient. Excellent. So thanks for that, everybody. You'll notice that on the right hand side you've got the chat. Most of you have found that already. Please leave a little message to everybody. A lot of you have already done so thank you for that. Oh, we've got Andrea from Romania. Hi, welcome to see you again. And we've got Smitra from India. So I think India is our furthest afield. So it's great to see that we're getting quite a lot of international people joining us. So you'll see that there's a tab on the right with the Q&A as well. So if you want to put questions in the Q&A, I'll try and answer them. If not, I'll raise them with Ed. So I'll just say hi to Martin. You're very welcome. And I'll pass over to Ed. I'm going to mute my mic, Ed.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar, a beginner's guide to setting up conversion tracking using Google Tag Manager. So my name is Ed Truman. I work here at Anicca. I've been here for like 7 years now. My day job is setting up Google Analytics and helping people out with their data and the analysis of that data. I've got a lot of experience with using Google Tag Manager, and I'm a big advocate of using it as a tool. I think it's really helpful for both marketers and developers, and it just enables you to get things done quicker. So I'm a big fan of it. So this webinar today is, you've got some examples of some of the brands we work with here. These are just some of the brands Anicca work with. So we work with a range of businesses, range of sectors, large and small, in many different diverse sectors, all have their own needs, lead gen, e-commerce. So the agenda for today, for this presentation, is that this is really pitched at obviously at a beginner's level. So if you haven't, if you're not very kind of au fait with setting up conversion tracking, you really maybe don't know much about Google Tag Manager, or you just haven't used it before, then this should be a helpful webinar in helping you get started with that. There's lots we could cover, but specifically today, I'm going to show you some live demos of how we can set up the Facebook pixel in particular, as well as your basic Google Analytics tag, pixel, and Google Ads. And it might be, if we've still got a bit more time at the end, I can take some questions, maybe do some kind of Q&As and possibly show you some other conversion tracking setups. Yeah, so I'll begin. So this is a common scenario with a lot of sites. So I wanted to do a guide on setting up conversion tracking, as I know it's an area where marketing and business owners can struggle to implement properly. And I know the documentation around the subject can also be confusing. So I wanted to break down the kind of conversion tracking process into some basic steps. So if you have a website, which I'm sure most of you do, or at least work with a website, the chances are you have marketing tags on that site. At the very least, you might just have a Google Analytics pixel spanning all pages of your website. But the chances are, if you're doing any kind of paid advertising, then you will most likely be tracking the success of that advertising through the use of various advertising pixels, like the Facebook pixel, Google Ads pixel, Twitter pixel, etc. So the main use of these tags is to allow you to track visitors across pages of your website, to enable you to kind of capture data and information about them. So not only their kind of audience makeup, but also their interactions and behavior with the website. So without this kind of, without this pixel implementation, without this tracking, we'd be none the wiser as to the conversions and actions people are carrying out on the site. So conversion tracking is obviously very important for reporting back the return on investment of your advertising efforts, and basically just getting an understanding of your audience all around. So the beauty is now we have Google Tag Manager. So Google Tag Manager makes deploying and updating pixels on your website much, much faster and simpler. And it massively reduces the reliance on IT support. So with it, you can take advantage of multiple kind of pre-built tag templates, auto triggers to allow you to track important user interactions on your site without the need for lots of additional code. So there's no longer the need to have multiple pixels scattered across all pages of your website. And certainly managing and updating those pixels now becomes much, much easier if you've just got one tag and one tool to do it through. So a tag manager container can basically replace all the manually coded tags on a site or an app, from Google Ads to Google Analytics to Floodlight and third-party tags. You'll typically only have one Google Tag Manager account per organization, and basically one piece of pixel code for one domain, so for one website. So the great thing is about GTM, you can choose from a comprehensive list of official Google tags, as well as implement your own tags. If you can't find a tag you require in the standard drop-down list, then there is the ability to be able to drop in your own kind of custom HTML script within GTM. So some of the benefits quickly of using Tag Manager. So it's absolutely excellent for managing all your tags in one place. Staying up to date with what it is you actually have on your website, so you're not working blind, you're not in the dark. You can consolidate your tags into a single piece of website code. So like I said before, it negates the need to have multiple pixels or strewn about your website. You can now just consolidate that into a single piece of website code. It reduces reliance on developer support. So you can implement a lot of this stuff yourself without having to bother the IT people. You can deploy tags quickly, no fuss. Manage user access as well, so you have control over who can actually gain access to be able to update tags and put stuff live on your website. It's really good for helping check for errors and debugging tags before going live. Highly flexible and customizable. So even like web developers and IT people recognize the benefits of Google Tag Manager and being able to make life simpler for them. And it has a whole load of built-in auto events and triggers to enable you to set up your conversion tracking faster and easier. And those built-in auto events is something we're going to kind of cover off in the remaining part of this webinar. It does work on websites and mobile apps, just to make that clear as well. So if you don't have Google Tag Manager, it's a free tool to use, so there's no cost for signing up. If you have a Google account already, just like many of the other Google tools, you can get access to Google Tag Manager by just Googling Google Tag Manager, and you'll be taken to the home screen in which you can then sign up for an account using your existing Google logins. And from there, the process is really simple. It really is a step-by-step process. And you can have your account set up within 5 minutes. So you'll basically create an account. You'll then be given a piece of pixel code, which is called a container. It is then up to you to implement that pixel across all website pages of your website. So we'll go into a little bit more detail in the next slides. This is what the pixel code looks like. So as you can see, it's merely just a small piece of JavaScript, similar to like the other types of pixels you might be familiar with. Again, this would be placed just within the head section of your website and span all pages. So once GTM is working, we'll know it's working because we'll be able to make use of some of the preview tools, and we'll be able to see it in Google Tag Assistant, which is a free Chrome plugin that just gives you an overview of the tags that are on our site. So once we're happy that Google Tag Manager is installed, then we've got the basis to be able to set up our conversion tracking tags. So before I kind of jump into the live demos and opening up Google Tag Manager and the conversion pixels, it's important just to kind of run through what the basic ingredients for Google Tag Manager are. So there's 3 things that you need to work with in order to get your conversion tags working and firing on the site. So the first thing is you need a tag. So this is the pixel that will be sending the data. So this could be your Google Analytics, your Google Ads, your Facebook or your LinkedIn Insight pixel, anything like that. You'll then need a firing rule to be set up. And again, this is all done within Google Tag Manager. So we'll need a trigger, which is a firing rule. So we need to tell the tag when to fire. And this could be based on a click, a form submission, a page load, or any specific event of your choosing. And then we have things called variables, which you'll see are basically named placeholders for value used in tags. So this could be things like trigger names, page URLs, click IDs, form IDs. So it's the specific kind of naming selectors, criteria that we all work with in both our tags and our triggers. So those 3 ingredients is Google Tag Manager broken down, and these are the 3 things we need in order to fire a conversion tag. Just taking a step back, it's really important that you identify firstly the conversion actions you want to be tracking on your website. So when you're running your advertising, you know, what is your objective? You know, what is it you're trying to do as a business? What is it you're trying to do with the advertising that you're running? Be clear on what that is, both at a top level and a more kind of like secondary level. So think about your kind of larger kind of macro events. So is it to drive a transaction? Is it to drive a form submission? Or is it more about engagement, i.e., you know, watching videos, downloading files, etc. So what you choose to track and what you choose to measure is different for every company and is entirely up to you and bespoke to your own business needs. Okay, so I'm going to run through some demos now. So what we're going to do today is we're going to set up 3 tags. So we're going to set up a Facebook all pages pixel. We're also going to set up a Facebook engagement timer. We're going to also set up a Facebook form submit event. We're going to implement a Google Analytics tag. We're going to implement the tag across all pages of the site, and I'll show you how to set up a specific event for tracking file downloads. And we're going to do a similar thing for Google Ads as well. So we're going to drop the Google Ads pixel onto the website. This will be the remarketing Google Ads pixel, and we'll ensure that we're also tracking form submits as a conversion within Google Ads. Okay, so I'm going to start with Facebook. So I'm just going to flash up this screen here. So there's basically 2 parts to what you need for tracking conversions in Facebook. So the first thing you need is your base code pixel. So this is your all pages pixel. And this is just a little bit of script that will need to be dropped onto every single page of the website. Although we won't need to drop it directly onto the website, we can deploy this through Google Tag Manager. The second part to it is the tracking of specific events. So once we're tracking all pages and just basic page views, there'll be specific events we're going to want to track, such as lead registrations, maybe purchases, etc., etc. Okay, so I've included some helpful links here. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen, and we're going to jump into Facebook. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see my screen. Okay, so when you first come into Facebook, so maybe if you're setting it up for the first time, your screen will look a little bit different to this. But what you'll get is an option to be able to create a pixel. You'll see here that because we've already got a pixel in place, we already have a pixel ID, we're already receiving data from that pixel already. So in this instance, we've already got a pixel set up, and it's previously been working. But if you're setting it up from scratch, you'll need to come into this area. So right now we're in Events Manager within Facebook. So you'll get to this up here. And you're going to want to come down to Events Manager. And this is where you're going to get access to your pixel and the ID in question. So if you have not set up a pixel before, you're going to be faced with a screen that looks something like this, where you can choose how you want to set your pixel up and what its intention is. So we're going to use it for web. It's the Facebook pixel we're after. I'm going to give it a name. So this is Anicca Facebook demo pixel. And the method of install we're going to use is to manually add the pixel code to the website. All we need is the pixel code. That's all we want, because we're going to next use Google Tag Manager. So this is it. So you'll be presented with the code. So it's a copy base code. So we copy the base code. And then the next thing we need to do is get that pasted into Google Tag Manager. So I'm going to put this in a little Word document for now. Okay, so that is the full extent of the Facebook pixel. I can just hit continue on that. Hit continue. And from here, I can choose to, we're going to go with the manual option. So any kind of additional events and things like that, we're going to set up manually. But let's get that pixel installed. So, okay, the main thing we need from here, the only thing we really need for Google Tag Manager is this pixel ID. And it's just simply this ID number here. So within Google Tag Manager, so this is what it looks like when you come into it for the first time. If you've never set up any tags previously, you've got nothing installed, this is what you'll be faced with. The first thing we're going to need to do is actually create a tag. So we need a Facebook pixel. So I'll do a little search. So you'll see down here, I've got this, there's already a pre-built template in place. This has been imported in from the template gallery. So this is our community template tag that's been imported. And this has been brought in from the community template gallery. So if you can't find the pixel you need, you can basically click within the community template gallery, and you'll find it within there. But this one specifically is the GTM Facebook pixel template by Simo Ohava, who is a well-known Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager expert in the field, and he has created this Facebook pixel, which makes life a lot more easier now. So you'll see that everything's already conditioned and pretty much set up for you. With that ID from our pixel, from our account, we can basically just copy and paste that in. Let's give it a name. So this is going to be Facebook All Pages. So give it a logical name. There's a bunch of other stuff here which you really kind of don't need to get into if you just want to have the basic template, so the basic pixel just fire on every single page. And now we need to set a trigger rule. So we need to fire off a trigger rule. And that trigger is going to be the all pages. I'm going to create that from scratch for you. Can I give it a name? So if you're coming into Google Tag Manager for the first time, you don't have any existing triggers or anything set up, you need to create these triggers from scratch. But once they're set up, you can then reuse them. Okay, so this is going to basically fire on every page view. So now I have a Facebook pixel with my ID in, and that's going to fire on every page. Okay, so let me save that. So what I want to do now, before I publish this, which I can do by hitting the submit button, I'm going to preview it. So if I hit preview, and I load up the website in question, so I've got my website open in a separate tab, what you get is this nice preview tool. And as you can see, I've got this tag firing on the page as soon as I open it. And if I navigate to any other page, that pixel is also firing. So that's cool. So
before you go to the next stage, could you just go back a stage to Tag Manager and just explain where in the menu you found the triggers and the tag section? Because for people that are not familiar with the interface, I think it's important that you just point out where they have to go to actually set this tag up.
yeah, so what I did there, guys, was when you come in, down this left menu here, you'll see the tags, triggers, and variables we talked about earlier. So it's just a case of clicking on the tag option, and you'll then be given the option then to either use an existing tag or create a new tag. So what I did was I hit new, and then what I did was then started to configure this tag. So I then told it what tag I wanted it to be. So there's a complete drop-down list here of all the tags available to you, and you can see it's pretty comprehensive. They've got most of the main kind of platforms in here, but like I said earlier, what they don't have is an official Facebook pixel one. So you're reliant on pulling that in from the community templates. Here. So this is where you'll find that Facebook pixel, community templates, search gallery. Just do a search for it. And these are third party community developed ones.
Bit
These are
like
being
when you
created.
did your data studio demo, you've got some preset ones that Google set up, and then you have to use third parties to connect to platforms outside of the Google.
That's right. That's right. And previously, before we had a tag template in place, we were reliant on basically dropping pixel code into a custom HTML tag, which still works fine. But because there now is this tag template available, we've used it quite a few times here at Anicca. It's just regarded as being a more kind of straightforward way. So, I want to kind of give you kind of the latest and kind of best methods. So I'm just going to refer to the Facebook tag template for that.
And just one more thing on this, depending on who set your tag manager account up, you could find it in completely different states of disarray. It might be completely empty, in which case you've got to set up everything from scratch, or it could be completely full of all sorts of triggers and tags and could be a right mess. So you can't really preempt what state the account's going to be in when somebody actually gets access to it, can you?
No, that's right.
And you've got a clean account here, haven't you? So this is sort of showing
this is one I created for demo purposes. So started from scratch. So hence the lack of tags and the lack of triggers. Okay, so that was the Facebook All Pages trigger. So the next thing I want to do is I want to set up a specific event for when somebody on this website submits a lead. So when they fill in, basically when they submit a form. So in this instance, we actually have a URL page. So once this form is submitted, the your URL actually changes. So that makes life a lot easier. So we can work with that that thank you page URL in Google Tag Manager as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is within Google Tag Manager, I am going to create a trigger based on when this form is completed. So it does require you to actually walk through the steps. So you need to have a clear understanding of your website and the different URLs and things in question. So I'll just show you what this one looks like. We fill this in. So hopefully I've completed that right. So if I hit here, this should change and produce a thank you message. Okay, so that is my thank you page URL, contact thanks. So I can use that as my trigger. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up a trigger for that so that I can fire a Facebook event when that trigger is detected. So
and that's similar to when if you're creating a goal in analytics as well. It's pretty much doing the same thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is, and it should be said that you can also create URL-based event actions directly within the platform itself. which is fine to do. But for demo purposes, I'm showing you how to do this in Google Tag Manager so that you can use that firing rule for not just Facebook, for other tags that you may also want to fire at that point. So let me just show you how to do that. So this is a page view event, and this will fire when the page path contains contact thanks. So as simple as that. So I know the only time that somebody accesses that page is when that form is submitted. So this is a really simple basic trigger. Let me just give it a name. Thanks. Okay, so I've got that trigger created. So the next thing I need to do is, and it doesn't matter what order you do this in, by the way, whether you create the trigger first or the tag first. The next thing I need to do is then create a Facebook event for that. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit confusing for people when as soon as you start talking about kind of Facebook events, it can get quite confusing. The documentation's also quite confusing on this as well. If you're kind of approaching it for the first time. So let me just show you. So I've included a link within documentation as well, but if you go to the Facebook's pixel specifications, these are all the standard events that that Facebook supports, that we can use to track events on our website. So for instance, because it's a form submission, I'm going to track that as a lead. So I need to pass a lead event into Facebook. So again, what I'm going to do in Google Tag Manager now, in addition to my all pages tag, I'm going to create a specific tag that will fire just on that event. So this is where I need to get my template again.
Just to let you know, guys, I've stuck the links in the chat because you can't click on the link in the presentation.
Okay, so just like before, guys, thank you, Anne. Just like before, guys, you need to just drop in your pixel ID from that same pixel from before, but instead of it being a page view event, this is now going to be a lead event. So this is entirely up to you what you want to label it as, but obviously because it's a form submission, it makes sense for us for this to be treated as a lead. So we're going to fire a lead event into Facebook. So I'm going to label this tag Facebook form submit lead. It's completely up to you what you want to label a tag as. So I can just leave that as it is. I'm going to find my trigger rule that I just created, contact thanks. I'm going to save that. And boom. So now I've got my all pages trigger, and I've also got a Facebook pixel from when that form is submitted. Okay, I'm just going to quickly do one more. So this is going to be our final Facebook tag, but the triggers we're going to use for some of the other tags as well. So the final trigger we're going to do is an engagement trigger. So I just want to show you how we do that. So let me just, this is one I did earlier, so let me just delete that so I can show you how we did that from scratch. So what I want to do is I want to fire an event when somebody has been on the website for 10 seconds. Okay, so when they've been on the website for at least 10 seconds, I'm going to fire an event that I can then use in Facebook so that I can start to measure people who are a lot more engaged. So I've picked 10 seconds, but it could be anything else you like. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So you'll see, by the way, there's a full drop down of all the different trigger types. So there's loads of like built-in stuff already. So there's events that can auto-detect form submissions, when people scroll, if they interact with video, a whole load of other things that unfortunately we just don't have enough time to fully get into. But what I will do is show you this timer trigger. Okay, so this is the timer trigger. We need to just basically set when this trigger will fire. So we want to fire this trigger after 10 seconds. So we have to work in milliseconds when we enter this in. So 10,000 milliseconds, it's 10 seconds. We only really kind of want to fire this trigger like the one time, that's absolutely fine. We want to enable this on any page. So we basically want this to basically work on any page. It really doesn't matter which page is, as long as they've been on the site for 10 seconds, we want this to fire. So we can basically just do something as simple as that. And this is going to be my 10 seconds engagement trigger. So 10 seconds Facebook. Oh, let's just call it 10-second engagement. Cool. So now we've got that extra trigger set up. So you can probably guess what we're going to do next. We now need to do the specific tag event for that. So I could create a new one, or I can just kind of copy and paste an existing one. I think I'll just create a new one actually, just to kind of keep it simple. Facebook pixel. Again, make sure you've got the correct ID. And this time, because we don't really have anything as standard in this drop-down list, I'm going to create a custom event that we can send into Facebook. So this is going to be, so we can give this a name. We're going to call this 10 sec gauge. Okay, we can leave the rest. 10 sec engagement, yeah. We can leave the rest. Apply the trigger. This is going to be again 10-second Facebook, 10-second engagement. Hit save. Cool. So you can see we've got 3 tags, 3 triggers. Let's just preview that. See what that looks like. Let's refresh our page again. So hopefully this should all work fine. So we've got our all pages trigger. And then what should happen in another few seconds, we should get that, yeah. So there we go. So there we've got that second event being fired. So this data now is being sent directly into Facebook. This is where we'll see it. If I complete this form down here, we will also see the other event fire as well. So request callback, and what we should see is that event also fire as well. Okay, so those events now, they're being passed into Facebook. Once we start seeing that data, once we start receiving a bit of data, what we'll see is that data come into Facebook. we should see that data come into Facebook, in which case you'll know it's working. Oh, sorry, one thing I didn't do there. So we just previewed that. Once I'm happy with that, we're going to submit it. This is the crucial part. You must submit it. And that'll basically put everything live on the website. So now we have the Facebook tags implemented.
Ed, while you're showing that, there's been a couple of questions in the Q&A, and I've sent answers, but they don't seem to be showing. So one person's asked about the fact that, you know, if you set up a goal in GA, how does that compare with Tag Manager? And what I was just trying to explain was, in a way, a goal is almost like a trigger, in the sense that it's recording something that happens in Google Analytics. Whereas in Google Tag Manager, once you set a trigger, you can apply it to any different tag. So that will allow you to set up a Facebook trigger like you've just done. So hopefully that's answered the question. So I was just sort of saying they're similar in their impact, but they're not the same thing. It's just that they work in a similar way, that you're using a specific action, such as a visit to a page or duration, to create a trigger. And in GA, we use that as a goal. But obviously, if you look in Facebook, it would be called something like a custom conversion or something like that. So hopefully that's answered the question. It might be worth people putting their questions in the chat, because Q&A can be a little bit work sometimes, but not always. So anyway, sorry for interrupting.
No, thank you. It's fine. Once those events start firing and you start getting user activity on your website, you'll see those events come into your advertising account. You'll see them flag here in Events Manager. And then those events will be, you'll be able to use those events in your conversion tracking. So once you actually get into your account and your conversion tracking, they will be available within the drop-down list to make use of within your account. So if you're seeing data here, that means it's good. It means it's working. Obviously, we're not seeing the ones we've just done because it's too soon to start seeing the data come in. But as soon as you start getting a bit of activity, you'll see this data come into here. And you'll know it's working. One more thing you might want to do. So for the custom event that came in, you'll probably want to turn that into a custom conversion, in which case you'll want to just give it a name. So the standard events will just enter your account naturally, but because we did a custom one for the engagement timer, so we did it with the track custom, we need to basically turn this into a custom conversion within Facebook.
What section of Business Manager are you in to create the custom conversion?
We're in Events Manager.
Still in Events Manager, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to stay with Events Manager. You can do most of the stuff within Events Manager anyway. There are other areas around Facebook within Business Manager where you can create your customer conversions. You are given the options. But if you, the Event Manager place is a good place to start to get this.
And also, I don't know whether you've noticed it's quarter to 10, so we may overrun slightly as well. So
once that event comes in, we'll be able to see it down here. It'll be under custom events, and we'll be able to select the engagement timer as the event. And once we're happy with that, we can basically hit create, and that will create us a brand new conversion within Facebook. Cool. So I hope that made sense to you guys. You'll probably want to replay this afterwards to basically recap those steps. So that was Facebook. So the next one I'm going to quickly show you. I mean, the good thing is we've got the triggers in place now. So the next thing I want to show you is how to deploy an analytics tag. So if you haven't yet deployed Google Analytics across your website, Doing so is super easy. We just need to have an analytics account with a pixel we can grab. So we just need to know what the ID is. So within Google Analytics, you can get this from going to admin, property settings, and taking your UA number. So just do a copy and paste of that, grab your ID, head back into Google Tag Manager. You can see straight away we've got Google Analytics here. We want Google Analytics, the universal one. Select that. Okay, again, this is going to be a page view. At this point, we can just enable overriding settings. We can enter in our ID. Let's give this tag a name. So just like we did for the Facebook one, this is going to be Google Analytics, all pages. And because we've already got the trigger in place, we can just make use of it here. So you can see, because we've already done the hard work in setting up the triggers, those triggers are all aligned. So we know that every tag is going to fire at the same point on the same type of trigger rule. So it just improves consistency. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to create one more trigger for you because we want to be able to track form downloads. So I'm going to quickly show you how to do that within Tag Manager. So this is going to be a new trigger. And this click trigger that we're going to create is going to be a really useful trigger that you'll use all the time for various things. So what we're tracking is I want to track anybody that downloads a file under presentation. So anytime somebody accesses one of these PDF files or any file on our website, I want to fire an event. Okay, so what we need for this is the trigger type of just links. And this is where we need to just set some rules. So this will be link clicks on any click URL that contains, in this instance, I'm just going to keep it really simple. So any click URL that contains PDF, because that's the file extension, we're going to fire a tag on. So you can tick this box, by the way. And again, we can enable this on any page. So any page that basically has a / in it. And I'm going to call this PDF file download. Okay. Okay, so now I've got a trigger that I can then use for any other tag I create. So now if I wanted to create another Google Analytics event tag, so if I wanted to pass this specific event into Google Analytics, let me just grab the ID back, here we go. Okay, so instead of a page view this time, we're going to send in a Google Analytics event, and we're going to give it some names. So say this is going to be form submit file download. So, file download. And what I'll do is, you don't have to do this, but I want to see the actual click URL. So I want that to appear within Google Analytics. Let me just give it a name while I'm here. So this is a GA event file download. And I'm going to apply that trigger I just created, PDF file download. I'm going to hit save. Must put in my ID, I forgot that part. Again, I can hit preview. Okay, I can do a refresh now on this page. So notice I only had that trigger applied to Google Analytics. If I wanted to, I could apply that trigger to any other pixel, any other tag I wanted. So you can start to see the kind of benefits. Once you've set up the triggers, those triggers are then versatile to use in any other tag that you want. And it just means that you can have kind of consistent, standardized conversion tracking across your website, all managed from one place. So let me just show you that event in action. So if I click on this link now, I should see a link click event, and I can see that an event has been sent, a tag has been fired, an event has been sent into Google Analytics, which is really great.
There was a question on this earlier on. If you've got Google Analytics tag already set up within your website and you're going to do it with Google Tag Manager, you need to remove the original one, don't you? Otherwise, you get double reporting. And you can use the tag assistant to check that. But there's lots and lots of advantages of setting analytics up through Tag Manager, because you can do so much more, and that's what you're trying to show now, isn't it, really?
Yes, with all of these built-in auto triggers, rules and variables and things that we have saved in one place, you can see that we get a top-level overview of all the tags on our website, all in a single place. So, you know, if you label tags up correctly, you just get that full kind of holistic view of everything you've got on the website. So where you can, it makes sense to just migrate everything to one centralized place rather than having pixels sprawled across the website. So if you already have Google Analytics on your website, I mean, that's fine. You can keep that as it is. But if you wanted to eventually migrate that to Google Tag Manager, you'd have to remove the old tags from your website and relocate them in Google Tag Manager instead. Okay, so I think I'm pushing it. I know I'm pushing time, but let me just show you one more for Google Ads. Okay, because I know a lot of you guys run Google Ads advertising. So I'm just going to get into my account here. Okay, so for Google Ads advertising, so the pixel you need for Google Ads, it all takes place within the tool settings up here. So under your tool settings, you're going to need to go to measurement conversions, and that will load up a screen that looks like this. So if you have existing tagging in place, you'll see all of the existing conversion events that you have firing. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up a new conversion event for when someone downloads a file on our website. So that may or may not be something you want to optimize against, and you don't have to, but the fact that you can have that data within Google Ads, within the platform itself, can be obviously very useful to like inform user activity and measure your ad performance. So let me just give this a name. So this is going to go under. So it's a file download, and again, we don't see it in a list. So let me just give it another name. So file download. There's going to be no value associated to this. You know, there's no transaction or anything taking place. I can choose to fire this tag every time, or just kind of count it as one conversion within Google Ads. All I'm interested in is users who downloaded something during their visit. So I'm just going to change that to one. When I'm happy with all of that, I can just hit create continue. And then you're presented with these options. So install the tag yourself, which is like the kind of old school method of just kind of hard coding it straight onto the website. Or if you're one of the lucky ones, you're using Google Tag Manager, just select this option. And the two things you need here are the conversion ID and a conversion label. Okay, so these are both crucial in order to get all this working. So again, let's hop back into Google Tag Manager. So guess what? We're going to create a new tag, and this time it's going to be a Google Ads conversion tracking tag. So quite a simple tag. And two things it's really asking for is the conversion ID and the conversion label. So let's just grab that from the account. So I take my conversion ID, I paste it into the box, and I take my conversion label and I paste that in also. Okay. Let's give this a name. So this is going to be Google Ads file download. Okay, and because I previously set up that trigger previously, again, I've got it here ready to use. So I'm just going to apply that. And I'm going to hit save. And again, now I've added that tag, I can just refresh preview. So let's just refresh it. Let's refresh this screen as well, just to see it in action. Okay, I'm just going to hold down Control and click, so I open it in another tab. But as you can see, I've got my two tags that I set up to fire on that trigger firing. I've got my Google Analytics event file download, and I've got my Google Ads file download. Okay, so that's it. That's it for setting up a basic conversion. Just to say, if I wanted to set up a Google Remarketing Tag as well, so for the basic remarketing pixel that spans all pages of the site, there's a separate tag for that, and you'll see it down here. So you want to just select the Google Ads Remarketing Pixel. And the only thing you need for this is the conversion ID. So you'll get this from here. Okay, so we only need to drop in the conversion ID. You do also get this when you're setting up new audiences as well. So if you're au fait with setting up audiences within Google Ads, you will also get this. So let me just apply that to the remarketing. So this is going to be Google Ads all pages remarketing. So this is the basic remarketing tag that spans all pages of our website, and it's something we can then use within Google Ads to create rules about who we want to remarket to, the pages they visited, etc., etc. So again, I can preview that. Let's just refresh this and see the tags fire.
We're just about out of time, Ed. So I'm going to share the handout, which is the PDF. So I'm going to just put that up on the screen now. So hopefully, can you see a PDF being shared? Or if you go up to the handout on the top right, everybody, you should be able to see a PDF. So you can download that. And then if you want to, that's it there. Can you see? Yeah, brilliant. So if you want to download that PDF, guys, that will be really useful. Could you return back to the slides, please?
Yeah, we'll do. Just to say, the last thing to do on this, once you're happy with that, is obviously to submit the lot, publish it. Any errors, it will tell you about. But that's it. You're good, and everything will be housed in Google Tag Manager. So it's been useful. So let me just.
Right, top left.
Yeah.
If you go over to the, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think I need to.
If you hit this slide share button on the top left.
Are we seeing it?
Yeah, so you need to go towards the end, don't we? So what Ed's done is he's provided the slides of the key steps in all of these different for all these different demos, which we'll be able to you'll be able to get in the handout. But also because he's showing these now, obviously, if you get the video later on, you can pause it and you'll be able to see the actual screens as a reminder of how to do this as well. So we'll just quickly go through each of those. We haven't really had chance to go into data layer events, which I think we'll need to cover on another day. I do think we probably need to set up an hour and a half for another session and do a bit more detail. But if you could just go to the next couple of slides. Do you want to quickly talk on this? Just explain what it was.
Yeah, so these are basically I've added these in as bonus slides. So I appreciate there's been a lot to cover. These are just some additional slides because I know a lot of you want to be able to kind of capture like dynamic values, purchase amounts and things like that. In those kind of instances, we need to use actual script on data layer script actually on the pages. So there is some additional JavaScript that you will still need in addition to the basic Google Tag Manager tag in order to capture some more kind of advanced things. So I've just included some kind of basic data layer event code.
And you do a paid proper course on this as well, don't you? For the more where you go through the whole stage. Okay, and this is just the commerce tracking code. So I just wanted to quickly bring up some of the normal end of presentation offers. So you can see, I'm going to actually bring them up on the screen so you can click on them. So the first one is the access to the academy. So this is going to appear on the screen. So if you click on and request access, you'll then get taken through to the Anicca Academy website, which is academy.anicca.co.uk, where you can actually get free access to the training materials. The other offers that I wanted to draw your attention to is the fact that we're running the 12-day Dmi course. This starts in October. There's a big discount on this. We will be running this both live in the office and online at the same time. So if you can't get to Leicester to our really lovely training rooms, then you can obviously take part virtually. This does lead to a qualification. So we're talking, I think the course is around £2,000 after the discount. But you do get the DMI qualification, and then there's an option for the CIM level, CLM level 4 qualification as well. And then the other thing that might be of interest to you is the free consultancy. So obviously you can choose Ed, but you can choose myself as well. Suk, who's in the room, Chris in the head of social, and Gurpreet, head of paid media. So all the head of departments plus myself are giving at least an hour's free consultancy to guide you on what you need to do once the lockdown finishes, and marketing is definitely picking up again. And then the final plug for the afternoon is just the next seminar. And it's me again. Sorry, guys. I know you must probably get fed up with hearing my voice every other week, but I'm going to be doing a webinar on actually how to set up and host and promote your own webinars. This is, I think, our 14th webinar since we started in April, and we've learned a lot since then. So we're going to give you a chance to sort of learn how to do this yourself. So this is going to be quite a popular one. I think that will be very useful for a lot of people. I think a lot of you will probably need to go now because I know it's gone past 10 o'clock, but there were a couple of other questions which we'll carry on talking. So if you've got any more questions, please feel free to write those in the chat. And the question that I picked up from earlier on was about how you set up Tag Manager for your clients. Do you have your own account or do you give them an account? So I'd just like to thank everybody while Ed's thinking about that question. You will get the videos later on, but otherwise we'll see you next week. If you want to stick around for a Q&A, please feel free. So over to you, Ed. How do you create accounts for Tag Manager accounts for your clients? Is it the same as Google at GA? What's the best way of doing it?
Yeah, it's a lot like Google Analytics. You're going to want the client to have ownership of their account, just like they have their own Facebook account, own Google Analytics account. So you'll want to either use their logins or provide them with kind of detailed instructions as to how to set up the containers. The steps, we've got a really kind of straightforward, simple guide, and the steps for setting up Google Tag Manager are really, really easy. People generally don't struggle too much with it. Once they've set it up, it's a question of then adding us as an agency to that account. So the client sets up the account and gives us access to it, and then from there we can set up all the tags, and that's generally the best way to do it, because then the client retains ownership under their own credentials and logins. So that generally makes sense.
Yeah, and then the other, just the clarification about having Google Analytics and not having it twice. That was the other question, but I think we've probably answered that. So you know, what you don't want is multiple versions of Google Analytics. Is it possible that you could just show people the Tag Assist again? Where to find that? That's a Chrome plugin, isn't it?
So guys, this is a plugin. This is a third-party plugin. Well, I mean, it's an official container extension. So it's a Google Chrome extension. So if you just do a Google search for Google Tag Assistant.
You're not sharing your screen, so if you want to show people, you'll just need to.
Okay. Okay. So if you just do a Google search for it, so it's called Google Tag Assistant, you'll find it in the kind of Chrome library. So just do a Google search for it. And it really is just a case of just hitting the kind of add to Google Chrome. And then once it's installed, which is a really quick process, it'll just appear as an icon here. It just means that for your own website, for anyone else's website, you can basically just go to it with the tool open. Just enable it. And what it will do is just basically list off the Google tags that are on that website. So it just becomes a really useful tag for highlighting and debugging any kind of issues. You'll see we've got Google Tag Manager on here twice because I set up a Google Tag Manager demo account. But you'll also see we've got our other pixels on here, Google Analytics, and global site tag for Google Ads, etc. So yeah, Google Tag Assistant, free tool available in the Chrome store.
And I mean, the usual giveaway that you've got two lots of Google Analytics is when you have a bounce rate in Google Analytics of less than 5%, isn't it? You can often see that, and then you check it that they've actually got Google Analytics added twice.
Yeah, if you're seeing really, really low bounce rates, that you know obviously highlights an issue with the reporting. So just kind of be aware of that. You know, ask your web developers if you're unsure of anything. Just get them to run a check to make sure you're not doubling up on any kind of Google Analytics code.
Excellent. Okay, well, I think that's we'll call that the end for now. We look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks very much, everybody who stuck around to the end, and we look forward to seeing you next Friday. Have a great weekend. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.